All right, guys and gals, thank you for joining the webinar today. I know everybody's super busy, so I do appreciate your guys' time. And today's webinar is going to be based on not all barrier walls are the same. We've got a variety of barrier walls, and we'll talk to them briefly, and I'll get into details once we get further down into the webinar. We're going to hold off until the end for questions. If you do have questions as we're going along, please feel free to put them in the question bar. If they're and I will answer those at the end of the webinar. Noise Barriers offers the following types of models of barrier walls. We have the SL, SLR, SLR Concealer, V-Stack, and the Quiet Mod HH, Hard, and the Quiet Mod Hard Perf. And again, we'll get into detail on these barrier walls as we get further into this webinar. Again, thank you for joining the webinar. Quiet line, not all sound barriers are the same. My name is Sal Marquez, and I'm the Mid-East Regional Sales Manager. I'll be hosting today's webinar. We'll dive right into our most popular V-Stack. We got quiet line, panel, V-Stack. Panels rest between the structural steel to create the barrier wall. Panels can be made, so these come in 4 and 5 inches thick. They can be as high up to 58, so the height can go as tall as 58. We make them in various heights. Sometimes if they're going on top of a building, it may be easier to put in 2 foot wide panels or 2 foot tall panels versus 5 foot tall panels. The barrier wall for the V-Stacks come up to 16 foot long in length. It helps if you have a job that's a significant size job. It really does help because it takes up a lot of the linear footage in the smaller count bays. So panel to panel interface is a very thin butt joint, and you can see here in this picture how nice and thin and the reveal for that butt joint is. It butts up real nicely, and no fasteners are required on these V-Stack panels. Ground mounted or mounted on top of a school or another building. Here's a nice shot of kind of a side shot of the V-Stack panel and how it integrates with the top and the bottom panel when you're stacking these panels. These panels are very what we consider on our end the economical panel. It can go in, if you've got something that's not really an architectural look and doesn't really require too high of an aesthetics look or following the contrast of a wall. Typically the V-Stack panel is the way to go. It gives you the nice STC 38 performance. V-Stack panel to columns. Here's a nice view of the column, where the V-Stack panel meets the column to column locations. Again, 4 and 5 inch thick, which is the different types of columns. For a 4-inch panel, we typically would like to use a 5x16 column. The 4-inch panel fits nice and tight in that 5x16, and a 6x20 is where we would go to the 5-inch panel. Corner detail for our V-Stacks. Just want to show you guys a couple of details on how these panels get installed in the field if they were going into a structural steel layout. Here's a nice corner detail, a couple angles welded to the side of the structural column, and then the panels would continue down the line in the sequence of column to column installation sequence all the way down the rest of the way until it hits the next corner, which would then go into an angle to welded angle to the column again. A couple more pictures of a rooftop barrier. Nice V-Stack. Again, this is on the top of a building. These are you can tell they use the bigger columns, and the way that we go ahead and take care of that is we add weld an angle to the inside of the beam to give it that 4.5 inch space for installation of the panel, the V-Stack panel. A couple more pictures. One other thing on cladding, I know I've seen this a lot more lately, especially in the architectural market. Our V-Stack panels you can install the V-Stack panels, and then once the V-Stack panel is installed, just to give it some nice, a cleaner look, they can add cladding to the face of the exterior solid side of the panel. We would just need to know this up front so we can add a stiffener inside the panel for attachment locations or attachment purposes. You also have the top and the bottom channel where the panels meet that you can attach to, but at least we know that you will have other cladding or other parts attaching to these panels. So we'd give you a stiffener, add some stiffeners in the panel to give you that support. Another great benefit, and this is throughout the barrier systems that we do supply, is the lifting mechanism for a barrier. Safe, a couple of biggest things is obviously we want to make sure that we're safe. People that are putting stuff in the field, 30, 40 feet up in the air, 10 feet up in the air, ground level, we want to make sure that not only is it safe, but also easy to install our panels. And I'll get more into detail on the small insert components and how this works with our panel and how it's all integrated. This is just, so as an example, this is how panels typically would get installed by others, different manufacturers. Is you would have to have the panel swinged on a piece of some tie-offs, and then it would come down and slide into its location. You'd have to put some 2x4s with some type of shim, and then pull that shim out as the panel sets into place. Not necessarily would it really cause much damage, but it could cause some kinking. It may cause some oil canning to the panel just because of the sheer weight of the panel nesting on the next panel. Typically used for the V-stack panels in applications where aesthetics are not as critical, like I mentioned earlier. V-stack provides lower square foot cost barrier than other designs. It's excellent for applications that require long walls. The 16-foot lengths require fewer columns, fewer foundation piers, fewer panels to install, all factors that reduce labor time and overall project costs. So if applications for the higher walls, 20 foot and higher, the available 5-foot panel height results in fewer panels to install vertically, resulting in lower overall costs. So as I mentioned earlier, their V-stack panels are most economical panel, and it comes in very, 16 feet lengths is kind of one of the biggest topics that we touch on a lot, just because it does reduce the amount of columns, piers, as noted above. It's a very, and it reduces the noise and performs well. The next panel that we want to talk about is the SLR concealer panel. This is a very interesting panel, very nice very pleasing to the eye. So you guys see in the picture here on the bottom, you can tell that the SLR, the R stands for the reveal around the perimeter. So you get a nice little reveal in between. It's about a 1-inch reveal throughout the panels, and it stays pretty consistent all around the wall. So it gives it a nice architectural look. This panel is really designed to please the eye, and it definitely does perform very well. Conceal panels are designed to conceal the columns by sliding over the column flanges, and I'll show you that in a couple of details further down. But that is one of the key factors here, is that you can see in the V-stack panel, you're able to see the face of the flange on that column, where on the V-stack panels, you saw where the V-stack panels slide inset of the column. In these actual concealer panels, they wrap the column, and I'll show you that in our corner details. We'll get more into that further down. I have a couple of nice shots of that. Panels are typically 5 inches thick. Panels are 24 inches high. So the SLR panel does only come in a 24-inch high size, where the V-stack again comes up to a 58.5-inch height. They can be up to 16-foot long. So another benefit here is you do get the 16-foot length, but again, keep in mind that your height is kind of limited to 2 feet again. Panel to panel interface, both horizontally and vertically, is a 1-inch reveal. No fasteners are required as well on this one, unless we get into a situation where it's high wind and it's specified that it is required, that fasteners are required. Here's a nice detail on the side, wall section detail, where you can see where the nice 1-inch reveal is, how the panel nests on top of the next panel, and then the bottom neoprene bearing block. That's pretty common with our SLR, SL, SLR, SLRC panels, require that block for that void that's at the bottom of the panel. Here's as discussed earlier, we talked about the channel for the lifting mechanism. You'll see this throughout the rest of our panels. You've got a nice slit here, 3-inch diameter by 3/4 inch wide notch, and that's simply to hook to the panel and bring it up into the column and set it without having to have 3 people on a lift trying to maneuver this panel down and then pull the other panel out from the other one. So yeah, this is a pretty neat design. Here's a couple of additional details for you guys, and you're going to see the corner detail and then intermittent column to column detail. So the column to column detail, and here you can see where the flange sits. The panel wraps a flange, so the face of the panel is what you're really seeing versus the face of this flange or the beam. On the corner detail, we do have some really nice corner panels on this concealer panel. And the reason this design is very popular is because it does conceal that corner. It gives a nice tight look, and it's a nice vertical. The line stays really nice and tight along all the corners of these walls. When you have a 4-sided wall, they all look identical. Again, touching on the bottom neoprene and the 1-inch reveal, but one of the biggest key factors here with this particular panel, this isn't our least expensive panel. It's actually probably one of our most expensive panels, but again, it's fitting for the particular architects that want an architectural look, that you want to match something that's going with the building, that you want that really nice clean look, and not see the column faces on the road or off of the building. Here's a nice additional picture for you guys so you can get the concept of the corner panels. As you can see, it's a nice, they slide in right into the column flanges, and it's a nice corner piece. And then you also get that nice reveal, and it kind of wraps that reveal all the way around the wall. Standard barrier with exposed columns. So when I talk about exposed columns versus concealer columns, here's a nice picture of on the left side here where it shows you that the face of the column is exposed. So you can see the robust steel just sticking out there, whether it's powder coated or just galvanized. You can really see it. On the concealer panels, a couple of benefits is that obviously you don't see the column, but you may not, depending on how critical it is or how visual it is, you may not have to paint the columns. Just hot dip galvanizing the columns should be maybe just sufficient because you're not going to see them. Now we move on to our SL panel. Similar to SLR design, SLRC design. It still has the shape. You don't get a reveal with this panel. And again, this is more, you get a tighter, a thinner, tighter attachment, so where it's almost seamless. But you will, just like our V-stack panel, have a real fine 1/8 to 1/4 inch seam all the way around. And this is also installed, as you can see in this next, in this family, it will also be installed within inset of the column, so you're able to see the column exposed on these SL panels. And I'm going to go to the SLR panel because, again, the details are pretty similar to the way that they nest into the column, and then also the way that they sit. Now, the SLR panel, again, it's a SLR, SL, and the SLRC configuration. Same family. The only difference is in this SLR, that's not a concealer, that still nests inside of the column. It still has that 1-inch reveal all the way around, but the column is exposed. We're going to move on to our HP 42 panel barrier wall, and we can do an HP 50, HP 52, HP 53, HH 53, just a common HP 52 to kind of fall in line with our other barrier walls. We do have a way to install these. What we typically would use these panels is for our enclosures, but we are able to use them as well in our barrier wall systems when the acoustical performance is required to be higher than our barriers than our V-stacks or SLRs, SLRCs can handle. We move into our HP 42 family, and we have a lot of details here. One of the nice details again is you can add cladding, or you can add, in the example, this has some louvers attached to one side of it. You can add louvers to kind of clean up that look. If there is existing steel in the field, this is where this is kind of ideal. You install these panels vertically, add a nice steel angle flange at the bottom to create kind of a boot for the panel, and then we use our channel to attach that to the angle at the bottom, and then at the top we kind of hold the panel back with a nice trim angle that's a heavier gauge. Depending again on wind load, we can up that gauge or add a steel column or steel angle at the top as well. Here's a nice detail on the right top hand corner where the panels meet. Similar to our installation, if you guys have ever seen the way that our buildings go together, this is a pretty similar installation to that, or pretty similar detail to that. But we do wrap that corner with a nice finished piece of steel trim. Interfacing between panel to panel, you don't have the column to column again because you're kind of butting up to steel. You have an H joiner, our typical H joiners. You can, it's the same thing with your V-stack panels. You can or you don't have to install fasteners in this panel style. You can do it if you need to. Again, it's based on wind load and certain requirements from a PE. HP42, HH50 barrier panels, H joiner give you kind of an idea on the elevation where you can see it on where the panels kind of go down a line, and you see where the H joiners meet on each section after each panel. So that's kind of, you'll get that visual, unless again you put cladding on it. It gives you'll see all the H joiners in between each one of these panels. But it's a very cost-effective barrier, and also it performs very well. HP42 or HH50 panels. Here's another, so on these HP50, HP42 panels, HH50s, we can install them as well in a horizontal manner, just like our V-stack panels. The H joiner would just, where the panels meet, there would be an H joiner, and you can stack them up. Same thing, they would nest inside of some columns if required. We have done these barrier wall systems inside interior barrier wall systems, and that would simply take a tube column versus a steel column flange with a flange. And again, that's interior and definitely a way to save cost, and very effective walls for factories, things of that nature. Some of the barrier suppliers require fasteners to secure panels and column to the columns. Ours don't require it, again, as dictated before, unless it's specified by a PE or the architect or the customer. But for the most part, none of our panels require fasteners to the panel to panel or H joiner to panel V stacks interactions. None of that will require a fastener. Barrier wall materials, typical materials throughout our barrier family. We do use our standard 16 gauge solid skin with 22 gauge perforated skin. There are definitely heavier gauges available, both in solid and perf. Standard materials are G90 for exterior. We like to use galvanized material for the exterior and powder coat it. We found out that that's a very durable way to do a barrier wall to prevent rust. And again, that's throughout our barrier wall family. A60 galvanized steel, stainless steel, and aluminum if required. We can also do them all in aluminum. We've done SLR, the SL family. We've done the V-stack and the HP in aluminum, and also in stainless steel if required. Panels are over 48 inch high, include additional internal stiffeners to accommodate the height, wind load requirements. As we get into the bigger panels, 16-foot lengths, depending on where they're being located, whether on a rooftop or they're being ground mounted, certain specifications may require us to definitely add additional stiffeners, but that can be done throughout the submittal process. And again, no fasteners are required with either panel systems to secure panels to panels or panels to support steel. Some other wall manufacturers require fasteners every 12 inches along the panel to panel joint. This is not only expensive to install, but unsightly as well. So to summarize, advantage of sound barrier walls by noise barriers. Noise barriers offers turnkey capability, design, PE, stamp, structural, framework, barrier panels, doors, and absorption panels if necessary, and installation services. We listen and we're definitely flexible when it comes to barrier systems. We want to make sure that not only are you getting a cost-effective to meet the budgets, but we're also wanting to make sure that acoustically it performs, our barrier wall systems perform very well for you. And if they are required to have that aesthetics look and the architectural look, we definitely have those for you as well. We offer longest and tallest individual panel size available, which reduce material, steel, and labor costs. So again, we're always mindful of trying to ensure that we provide a cost-effective barrier when necessary. We have developed a fast and very safe method of installing the panels. As I showed you guys in the previous slides, where we hook up to the top of the panel and slide them into the columns with only a couple of hooks. So it's definitely a safer manner to do it. 6 different panel configurations to meet architectural and acoustical performance requirements. For applications that are longer and or higher, V-Stacks is very far the most economical panel on the market. For applications that need more aesthetic panels, like I talked about before, the SLR concealer is the best looking panel system on the market. You've seen those in some of the details above. Additional information, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to us at info@noisebarriers.com if you got some particular questions about different types of barrier panel systems. If you want to receive sample specifications, AutoCAD drawings, or budget pricing, if you need any information on any Noise Barriers products, we have a variety of other products. If you want to hear from a sales rep to assist you, we're here to help. But just wanted to give you guys an idea of the different types of barriers. So I thank everybody for joining the webinar today. I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to answering any questions that anybody may have.
Yes, Sal, we have one question. What prevents water from sitting in the HP panel, promoting rust with the exterior install?
So all of our panels are self-draining. They're not sealed at the bottom where the joints are, where the channel to channel meets. They're not seamless. There is a seam between the channels, which the water will run off. If there is a requirement outside of that, where sometimes we run into situations where they really want to have that assurance that there is no water being retained at the bottom panel, we are able to put drain holes, drill drain holes during the manufacturing process to help eliminate that concern.
All right, we have another question. How much room do you normally allow between a V-stack panel and an I-beam? 1 inch on each side?
Typically it's about it's about 1 inch on either side. One thing that I didn't mention to everybody that's still on, all of these panel systems are powder coated to a specific color of liking. We do have 6 standard colors, but we do have a variety of colors as well. We can powder coat. Sometimes we do get requests to powder coat specific colors or very particular expensive colors. Those do come. Those are able to be provided. They just come with a higher cost. Most of the reasons why we say our standard 6 colors is because it's colors that are powder coated to stock, keep in stock for us, and the high volume that we use, we get a lower price that we're able to pass along. If anybody has any further questions, feel free to reach out, and we'll be more than willing to help you guys in any way we can. Thank you again, and hope you have a great rest of your day, and happy rest of the weekend.